everyone is trying to build something on their own, there will be clashes. And if your data model doesn't work for one of the segments, it's not going to work for any of the segments, because when you make changes, you're going to break something.
Welcome to Composable Banking podcast, where we go through the expectations and realities in changing banking landscape. In today's episode, we have a lovely guest called Eero Mikkola from OP Bank. Welcome, Eero.
Hello, thank you. Lovely to be here.
Good to have you on this episode. And as I checked you from LinkedIn, you operate as a CRM lead at OP, right?
Yeah, business lead for the CRM product, to be exact. I've actually got 3 colleagues also who are business leads in each of the OP Financial Group's segments.
All right. So it's very interesting. Could you tell a little bit more for the audience who are not probably so familiar with the OP Bank? So Could you say a couple sentences about OP?
Certainly. OP Financial Group consists of our retail banking, corporate banking, and insurance. And on the insurance side, we have both non-life insurance and life insurance included as well.
And if you could elaborate a little bit, this past 8 years, like from where you started at OP and where you have grown within the organization to this day. Yeah. And after that, we could probably discuss a little bit more about your responsibilities that you do right now. But let's start from the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, I actually started as an external, and my job was to identify the different problems that we had in our customer databases, and each of the segments have their own. And I really had a year to really go through all of the different problems, but also the things that worked well in the different segments. So I really got to understand the customer data in each of the segments, and that really sort of helped me understand that, okay, how do we want to move forward when we're thinking about the customer, and how can we serve internally the different clerks that we have. But yeah, really started there analyzing the different data sets, moving on to a development manager role on the retail banking side for their customer database. And my main goal was really to centralize the data for the cooperative banks, and working with the different business product lines, and making sure that they had what they needed from data perspective. And what really interested me was the group level challenges that we had, and how could we solve those. And around 3 years ago came an opportunity that would I like to join the group level CRM development. It was really still in an initial phase, so not much had been done, and joined there as a sort of a platform product owner. We started with 2 people. Mm-hmm. And now it's been 3 years. I got a new role about half a year ago, so a business lead for the product. And now we got, in my teams, we got a bit more than 30 people so far. And now I'm here.
That's fantastic. And very extensive experience within the bank, and you must have seen a lot of kind of successful and unsuccessful journeys and projects, but pretty much that we could emphasize is that you always been working around the data, and you probably gained quite a lot of experience, a lot of mileage in that one. In kind of your perspective, how the bank should utilize the data. So everybody likes to talk about the data, but how banks should utilize the data.
Yeah, the big thing is currently the governance and the management, and we're doing fine on that. Lots of programs and lots of things that we're doing, and we are talking a lot about sort of the utilization, but we're not yet doing that much. But we have a big interest on that one, and that's also my interest in my new role, that I'm responsible for the data governance, data quality in CRM, but I'm actually currently more interested in the utilization. How can we use it better? How do we use the data in a fashion that we don't collect it from many places and then many different systems, trying to use different data sets, rather understanding that, okay, this customer has these sorts of needs. How do these needs correlate to the different business segments? Would that actually be interesting to them as well? How do we generate leads from that? And how do we do it automatically so that it's not memory-based work for the clerks that we have? So really, on the CRM side, we're on a journey. We've done wonderful job on the data management side, got a really good concept on how we want to manage the data sets, but now we're moving forward more towards the utilization. And I think a big thing in the utilization is there that how can we find strength from compliance? Compliance is usually seen as something that hinders you, that stops you from doing what you want. But then again, I think the customers expect that from compliance point of view, everything is okay. So when everything is okay, we're more trustworthy, we're more reliable. And that gives, I think, an opportunity in collaborating with the customers. Do you actually approve? Do you want to give us your data? And we need to be transparent on how we are using it and why what are we doing with it. But of course, there's a lot of hiccups there. But utilization, I think, really should be empowered by compliance and then really serving the customer needs and understanding that what does the customer need and at which time. Instead of pushing things towards the customer, we would like to, in a timely fashion, enable the customer to live his best life.
That's a good point out, and kind of as we discussed prior to the filming, we're a little bit going through the title for this episode, that from the product to the customer needs. So basically listen to the customer, follow them, what they're doing, and based on that, try to provide hyper-personalized services and offers and products that banks might have itself. In your opinion, what is the current state? Let's say if we try to kind of frame it a little bit to smaller scope, but in Finland in general or in the Nordics, how would you see that, how mature banks are utilizing the data?
I think we're taking sort of a baby steps forward. I think we've got good examples. I think Nordea has been doing good work already with the customers, sort of asking them permissions on how they can use the data. And it's certainly a direction that we want to go towards as well. But we also want, of course, when we get that data, we also want to make sure that we can use AI to really crunch on that data. But we'll probably get to the AI later. But I would say in baby steps still, I think there is a lot of possibilities that we could have. But to get there, to really get to the utilization, we need to be reliable first. We need to make the customers trust us more. That it's not that we would be using their data just to promote our own sales. Rather, we want to promote sort of the data in a fashion that they trust us, that we are actually doing good things for them.
Have you done any kind of surveys from the customer side? Like your daily retail customers,
I think there have been some, but I've not been in that area currently.
No. And then from your previous comment, I'm going to take the beautiful word that everybody likes to talk about is the AI.
Yeah.
And naturally, we've been part of Mobi Forum as well in the AI working group, and we have discussed with various banks about how they are utilizing the AI. So mainly it's been part of the fraud prevention, fraud detections kind of a systems or transaction monitoring. And now if we look into your responsibilities, so how mature the AI is in your kind of a data field or customer?
From 1 to 10, I would say we would be somewhere in 3, perhaps. Depends on the area. Some areas are already a bit more developed in OP Financial Group. Some are going there. But I think really, from my perspective, of course, there is a rush to get to use the AI. But the rush shouldn't be sort of promoted in a fashion that you don't have the foundations. If you don't have the foundations, you should not use AI. And that's really, from my perspective, and what I want to lead is that create a solid foundation for the customer lifecycle management for the different processes, whether it's acquisition, sales, care. Those processes really need to be good. You need to make sure that the data that you collect is good. You need to make sure that it's frequently updated so that the data lifecycle in itself is good as well. And if you have that foundation there, properly developed and used by the end users, and they like to use that, then you can enable more things with the AI. Then you can really sort of cut things that the employee has to do now manually and try to pick the different guidelines that he has to follow, try to find the different notes or emails that the customer has sent. So really collecting that. But before you can do that, get the foundations and the processes in order. We will see.
We'll see. That's well said. But if we jump a little bit backwards, and you mentioned that you started the journey, the project, now it's more of a group level.
Yeah.
So how was that journey, kind of how it started, and how did you manage to push to kind of apply for kind of a group level ideology? Or
I think the big thing really is for people to understand that we're doing it together, and understanding the business cases that we have when we're doing it together. So really I think customer lifecycle management, that was sort of the key, and everybody was sort of looking at it from their perspective, but understanding the possibilities when we're looking at it together, and understanding that, hey, we've got the same actually acquisition, generic process, generic sales process, generic care process. We might have different questions. We might have more points or more stages in the processes, but the general areas in the life cycle are still the same. Whether it's about banking or insurance, or whether it's about retail customers or corporate customers, you've still got the same very basic thing, and that took quite a bit of time. But last year, our group level CRM tribe was established, and I think so far for the first 6 months, I think we've been doing a wonderful job, and people are really understanding now that, okay, why are we doing it together?
All right, that's very good. Kind of gives you the good confidence, and when you have those successful milestones that you accomplish, and you have something to actually showcase and promote, and kind of build a good story and convince them, like, hey, this is how it could look like in the future, and this is what we have done, and this is why it works. And have you built some kind of a futuristic scenery, like Back to the Future, how you would see the future that you try to achieve, or kind of, let's say, kind of in 5 years or 10 years?
Yeah, we do have a vision. I'll perhaps phrase it quite shortly at this point, but really it's understanding the customer, like I said earlier, but serving the customer at the right time with the right products. So we don't want to push things sort of when you're doing campaigns and you've got hundreds of thousands of people in there. But understanding that, what do they actually need, what could help them, how could we serve them with different products, and also understanding that, okay, we already have interacted with this customer from another area already. Should we contact the customer? Perhaps not. Perhaps as the feedback was poor, perhaps we shouldn't. But really understanding what are we doing with the customer, serving him at the right time. I think that will be the vision, and really helping the customers to be better coaches for their own financial side as well.
Yeah, it's a good vision. That's something that I could rely on as well. In my kind of opinion, is that we used to have local branches that parents go in and open your first bank account for a child, and the child will stay with that banking relationship until applying for first mortgage. So that's usually the journey used to be. And then you have this kind of a warm and long period of time, kind of the relationship with that branch. We're talking about the branch. You always go to the branch, apply for the student loan. You go to the branch. They know you. They know your parents. So they have kind of the data about you and your family line, right? And then after we start shutting down the local branches, so for the cost efficiency and kind of adapting to the kind of connections to the contact centers and to the systems itself. And now I think we're going back kind of to the loop of having that intimate and good relationship with the customer, kind of getting that data, know how they purchase, how they behave, and what they kind of buying power, the needs, the insurance, for example, or buying a new car, or the leasing is expiring, they want to purchase a new car. So you kind of get this new relationship, but it's not anymore kind of a physical that you meet person face to face, but rather kind of digital way.
Yes, and here the data visibility, data quality, security, compliance becomes paramount, as the different regulations, of course, make sure that our clerks don't see what they're not supposed to see. But then how do we make sure that they see the right things when the customer calls? How do we make sure that the right data is in there so that the clerk can forward the call or the question to the right place? So that's also, of course, a problem, and hence we need more data, but we also need to make sure that we use it in the right ways and our compliance is handled well, and we should be able to promote that as well. So that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges currently, I think, is the compliance, not only sort of from the perspective that how do we make it positive, but how do we find the path that we understand actually the clerk can see and understand the customer and the different interactions and relay the customer's questions to the right place if they should happen to be in the wrong place. So it's a difficult problem, and I don't think we will ever solve it completely. Some customers, and it's of course their right, is to hold their data, their identity closer to them. At that point, probably we will be serving, of course, them as well as we can, but other areas might see better service when we understand and know the customers better.
In your opinion, could you see that banks could collaborate more if we talk about the data? So now, of course, we have the PSD2, which allows to get account information and do the payment initiation if you want. So you got this multi-bank view on your online banking. But could you see that banks should collaborate more if the consumer has...
Definitely on the compliance and risk side, I think there are huge benefits. And different banks, as the compliance regulations grow ever more difficult, and how to handle them and how to identify which potential customers are actually risks. Let's say that they are doing money laundering, or they are doing something regarding terrorism or whatnot. I think that's certainly an area where we should collaborate more and find ways to sort of understand these shoppers that go to different banks and branches and try to get the different products from there. So it would be really valuable if the different banks would know that as well. So definitely see an area of interest that benefits everyone.
If we jump again a little bit more to the data, you participated at Siili's data roundtable a few weeks back, and there you mentioned, let me see that you mentioned that you talk about the data governance. Yes.
Yeah.
Data governance was the topic. So how can banks, or you in your kind of your area of responsibilities and tasks that you do in OP right now, how can you ensure that the data quality, that you can maintain the high quality of the data? That's the kind of the question. So
the first problem, as you have so much data and you have so many different solution systems needs, make it as simple as possible. Sometimes you can't have it perfect, Sometimes you will have multiple data sets, but the businesses have different needs for it, and they might have different parameters. So don't make rules. Make it as simple as possible. You have to have some rules, I know that, but keeping it simple. And if you have it simple, make sure that you have processes and that manage the data lifecycle. So it's updated when it's needed to be updated, and if not, then you just maintain it. And I cannot emphasize enough that external data is really important. From CRM perspective, we don't want to create a massive data warehouse. We want to make sure that we have connections to different external data, whether it's internal data that we're getting, or whether it's, let's say, from the government or whatnot, making sure that we get up-to-date information. And I think that's an area, especially on the corporation side, that the banks and the government should work better together. That how do we make sure that we have up-to-date information about the corporations, about their line of businesses and sectors, whatnot. So keep it simple, have easy processes that update the data, and make sure that the clerks don't have to do everything by themselves.
Good rule of thumb to remember, that keep it simple and take small steps, and probably measurable steps as well.
Yeah.
That kind of supports the journey, that when you have the small success cases or accomplishments, that kind of feeds the hunger.
Yeah, definitely.
If we try to discuss a little bit on the CRM journey that you have had. So you publicly, and you actually mentioned yourself as well, that you have chosen the Microsoft Dynamics as your platform for the foundation and building that customer lifecycle management. So in that perspective, what kind of a journey it has been? If you could kind of give the successful, what was the kind of successful factors? Let's start with that. Then we go to the kind of what could have been done better. So using that information, we potentially could kind of give some insights to listeners, like what they should kind of encounter or remember to do that they will probably not.
The successes, I'm unfortunately going to be apparent and a bit boring. Customer lifecycle, I'm terribly sorry. Customer lifecycle and the common processes. That's the biggest thing from my perspective, because that leads you sort of into an area where you don't have to do everything again and again. You have this or that product that you want to sell. So each probably has had some sort of a process. But we want to make sure that whether it's from the retail banking or whether it's from insurance, you follow the same path. Here's the generic sales process. So I think that's the biggest success on how we understood that this is what we can use, the common processes. That enables us really to spend our time on the things that matter, on how to make sort of the processes smooth. How do we make sure that everything is asked? How do we make sure that everything that the clerk does is not something that he or she has to remember? Rather making sure that the system supports that. And by enabling those things, instead of each of the segments, each of the projects, each of the teams would have to define all of those things again and again and again, and then going from the business needs into the processes, use cases, and the data and integrations, the work really is multiplied by 100-fold if you don't have that solid foundation. And people understanding that solid foundation have it a lot easier than when they don't have to think about it. How does that work? And perhaps as another point, we've decided on a sort of a common CRM that we've got one production instance, one data model, and that really also makes it paramount that we understand each other. Hence, yet again, going back to understanding the customer and the different needs that the customer has. So if we don't have that and everyone is trying to build something on their own, there will be clashes. And if your data model doesn't work for one of the segments, It's not going to work for any of the segments, because when you make changes, you're going to break something. So yet again, we go back to the beginning and ask ourselves the question, what do we have in common? The customer.
The customer.
And we have the common life cycle. We need to acquire the customers. We need to sell to the customers. We need to care for the customers. We need to watch out for the churn area, and we need to market to the customers. We've got all of that in common. We may be asking different questions. We may have more points in our processes than some, but that's the biggest success story, I think, so far.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting and very good, kind of to the point right now. And have you kind of read or heard or seen some other good examples from the market? Not like that you have done, let's say, we have that kind of well covered so far.
I was actually in an event that Microsoft actually had about a week ago.
Yeah.
And Meta Group was talking there about their journey in Microsoft Dynamics, and their sort of how their journey started was that for 2 years they went through their common processes. What did each of the segments or divisions, what did they have in common? That's the thing that they started with. Then they built sort of the common core capabilities that they needed, and on top of that they built then the business specific needs. But very same way of thinking. What do we have in common? The customer and the life cycle and the common processes. I think that's really the key.
Yeah, that's a very good example, and very glad that you brought it up as well, because it's always we need to remember that even though we are in a financial sector, in the banking sector, but also there's a lot of good use cases on other domains as well, and so we need to keep an eye on that one as well.
We're not so different, after all. We might have different regulations, we might have different needs and products, whatnot, but the basic things stay the same.
And now if we jumping from one leaf to another, if we jump again to the AI topic, I'm very interested of that one, because we have a lot of inquiries and discussions now with the customers that everybody would like to have some POCs and some examples and some use cases that we are already doing the AI-powered software development naturally in this period of time, but then everybody's looking for new use cases. So if we take an example in your line of responsibilities, or OP as an example, or do you have already AI-assisted booking mechanism or AI-assisted chatbot or something like that? What kind of products or services you have that are utilizing AI?
Can't say too much about them, but I think our focus on AI is really getting the everyday, helping the everyday work first. So whether it's about those guidelines, finding them, whether it's about emails, or whether it's about making arguments that why should you buy this product, whatnot. Those are sort of making it easier for the clerk to find things, to remember things. That's sort of the first step for us. And we've already got some solutions, and we are using them on some level. But really moving on into sort of the sexy things with AI, that requires it again sort of that we have the foundation, that we have the architecture, and we have the good data quality. Then we can sort of start training the AI and making sure that, we've had thousands of these cases before. If we offer these sorts of things, the most likely outcome is a one opportunity. And that's what we want to do, is that we want to use our data in a fashion that we can learn from our acquisition, sales, or care, and find the best parts that we can, and from there move onwards. Initially, the very basic everyday life, make it easy. And then onwards from there, how can we really use the data to enhance our understanding and the sales, and when to act.
Yeah. That's a good point, Alan. And could add on a little bit on top of that, I also see that it's quite important for the banks is to educate the employees also for responsible usage of AI.
Yes.
Because I know that people are quite curious and kind of want to try it out, and curiosity of the new technologies, it's always there. But more or less, we have, of course, each company has their own mandatory trainings, but that AI angle should be one of them as well. Yeah. Because it's a big risk as well, but also a good enabler for the future, of course. But you need to learn using it responsibly.
I think probably the most usual and favorite Copilot example is the write me an email. And let's say you've got about 1,000 people would be just using that and just hitting send, 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 send. How likely is it that there's going to be something that the customer doesn't like in there? There's going to be something that's irrelevant. The customer might be called in a fashion that the customer doesn't like. Or, there might be a bug here or there in our data, and there might be something really weird. So that really sort of, I think, highlights the risk of making things too easy and just hitting send without reading what you've written. So you don't really understand always the context, and understanding the context then enables you to think that, okay, is this something that I want to send? So it brings awesome possibilities, but great risks as well.
Yeah. Because in the end, the person who pressed the send, he's responsible of that message. And
I think we've already seen quite a bit in different news channels that customers have been getting weird answers from the bots. So when you think that you're working with a clerk and you're getting emails that might be even stranger, and I would imagine that the news would be really glad to get that sort of information, but the corporation that did the mistake would not be too happy about it.
Yeah, I can agree on that one. But if we look a little bit more about the AIs, have you kind of seen interesting use cases that companies, let's broaden the scope, like not only the financial services or the banking sector, but kind of a broader spectrum, like other industries as well we include to this question. So have you seen any interesting AI-related cases, or that kind of caught your eye and you read a little bit more about it that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I'm thinking that actually I've probably been through the ones that I've seen, and I think from my own sort of experience, I think that the interesting thing and risk thing as well is that how much of the work can they do for us in the future? What I would like to see more, I've seen a couple of things, but as I make quite a bit of presentations, what I would like to add in there is that I would just like to ask that do these sorts of things for me and create 10 slides, do that, collect the data from there, input it there. And instead of using, let's say, 5 hours in dabbling with PowerPoints or with other systems, I would just like to tell in a couple of minutes what I want and then just modify it a little bit. And I think that also for our sales personnel could save a lot of time, especially when you find good templates that you could use and then just tell the AI to, okay, fill it with these, collect the data from there. That would be great.
Yeah. It's good because, as an example, we also now digitalized our employee handbook using kind of AI. So AI is using uses the data out there, so you can communicate through Slack channel. I have this question related to your employment or HR or holidays or annual leave. So you ask the question, and that already gives you the reply automatically. That's very kind of a good example. For example, what other banks or kind of banks in Europe have done already. So they pushed the internal intra to the GPT, and with very limited scope that it doesn't have access to the outside world, but only using the data they have internally. So employees can look for the answer quickly, ask the question, and there comes the reply.
That's an area of interest for us as well, and we're looking into that even currently now. But I think really the big question is that how much of the different conceptual work can the AI take as well? We've seen the different illustrations or the videos that you can do now with AI, but how can we see that sort of in your work, in when you are concepting something? How can you use that? But how can you also make it use those using sort of the different AI technologies together, compiling the data, compiling the guidelines, but then also using the AI to create pictures or videos, and then adding those into your concept. Let's say if you're selling something or creating a PowerPoint presentation, adding all of those together. I think that's really the big thing for me, at least, would be that it's great that I can get guidelines, and if I can get summaries from them, but I also would like to add them into already ready-made presentations, and we would be using different AI capabilities in there. So putting those together instead of having 150 different AI use cases that are working separately. So bringing those together, that would interest me.
Let's wait for that time then.
Yeah.
Hopefully in some period of time that will happen. But
Make me a presentation for a new team that the budget limit is 2 million. They're going to be doing these things. They need to follow these guidelines, make a cool picture, make a short promo video, and with these and these parameters, go ahead, and then you have something ready. That would be nice.
that would be nice. Yeah. Yeah, my mind is going around now, all the capabilities that we can use. There's a lot of interesting discussions as well, what is happening in the market, especially from the software development side, like using AI for old programming languages or old mainframe systems. So they are missing the documentation. So using AI to create the documentation and potentially moving from the old mainframe computer language systems to the new one.
True.
It's been
COBOL is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly. So you could potentially use it there as well. See, it is an enabler. It is opening up new ways of operating and moving forward with the future. So it's interesting times. It is interesting times, and unfortunately, the AI is here to stay. It's not. It might be changing throughout the time.
I think it's a good thing. We just need to use it well.
Yeah.
Not let the AI reign us. Right there. Us reigning. I think we've got a couple of movies about that.
Yeah, we have them. We can watch it on Netflix or other streaming services. But yeah, in general, I've been fantastic discussion with you. I'm very pleased to see what kind of work you have done within OP, and wishing you all the best in the future as well. But before we're gonna conclude this episode, there's one important question that I always like to ask our guests: is that if I had a extra budget here that I don't need to share with my wife, but I could give it to you as an investment, let's say 100 million euros. So what kind of a bank would you build?
Digital one.
Digital one. Completely digital.
Yes, completely.
No branches, nothing.
No. And then I would try to hire the best people from different compliance areas, but who also understand and know finance business. So in development, when we're looking at the different SaaS services, really the ideal person to configure the system is a person who understands the technical side, but also the business side, so that you can create the business process and the system process in one go. The same goes that you have to have understanding of the compliance. So finding people on compliance side who understand the business and the processes, and finding ways in how we can make that. And I'm sure in the future that we will see different organizations challenge the current laws that we have to really enable the better service for the customers with certain limitations, I'm sure. But if I could build a digital bank, it probably would have not just one SaaS service from one organization, but probably a couple, just not to put all of my eggs in one basket. But then really hiring sort of the best people, if I could find them, that's an entirely different question. But with not just a single area of expertise. They should have from several areas so that they can make the best services.
That's a good one. I need to say that's a very interesting point. And yeah, let's hopefully we're going to find you those guys to build you out.
I would need them now as well.
All right, there we go. All the listeners who are listening to this, there's an opportunity hanging.
Yes.
Golden nugget.
But I think it also enables people when you don't put the person in a box. You're a developer, so you do developer things. Don't say anything to the business because that's their business, and vice versa. I think the best solutions come when people come together. But then again, you have the problem that you have so many people. And then how can you make decisions? Who makes the decisions? So the best thing is I think that the different cloud services that we're getting, the AI that we're getting, it enables us to become more, to understand more from single person perspective. And that then again makes the development easier when you have this impossible landscape of different regulations and different business goals.
True. So you basically need a good developer, good team that know about software development and the practices around it, but also which are, let's say, sprinkled with the banking expertise.
Yeah, business savvy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. That's a tough one.
And if at all possible, if they would have been even working in a bank, so they would know. But then again, you can find ways to bring those end users into your life. And I really can't stress enough that you should have people from the get-go who are working in everyday life when you start a project. You should not bring them into the user acceptance testing phase. That's way too late. You should have them from the get-go.
That's a good final point there as well. But yeah, so many discussions, so many questions I would like to ask you more, but I think we are slowly running out of the time this time. And I would love to bring you as well to, let's say, after 1 year or 2 years, kind of have a small discussions then as well to see how the journey has been kind of progressed
Certainly.
in 12 months. So that will be awesome to see how successfully you have taken the steps forward. But in general, we had a fantastic discussion. Everything about the data, using the data, and most importantly, build a good foundation.
Yeah.
After a good foundation, get the data in order and start utilizing it.
Exactly.
And as a final point, what could be kind of one example how if the banks they have the data, right?
Yeah.
They have the big pools and everybody likes to talk about it. We have so much data. One kind of a small example that listeners could, for example, who is working with data, who could try something very small and simple, utilizing the data. What could be the good example, what you could try, or give an example of how people could try to utilize the data. But I think it's a good time to wrap up this time. I want to thank you, Eero. Big thanks for joining me today. We have the new setup here right now, so let's see what we'll have on the next episode. But thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely to be here.
Yeah,
thank you.
And don't forget, subscribe our podcast as well, and also add you on LinkedIn as well. Follow you on your journey with OP and surrounded with data and CRM.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.